And we're live. Welcome to Men's Radio Station. It's exactly 6 o'clock. It's apparently Thursday, but who the hell knows? And of course, that means it's the ABC of CBD. I think we're the only radio station, probably in the world, dedicating an entire hour to the benefits and the whole history and everything that goes along with CBD oil. It's been a huge educational journey for me, and that is all thanks to the host of the show, Mr. Ollie Mammon. So without further ado or a tincture, let's play the ad and then let's chat straight away with Ollie Mammon.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
My favorite part of that ad is when the guy gets the package from the Tincture Club and he opens it up and it's like Indiana Jones. You don't know what the hell's going to come out. So exciting. Anyway, Ollie, you've got a very special guest who I was having a little chit chat with before the show started. Thanks to our wonderful producer, Sinner. Sinner, thank you for everything you do. He's an unsung hero at Men's Radio Station. Ollie, over to you, fella.
So, about 4 weeks ago, we had a guest on the show called Guy Coxwell. It was the December the 10th episode, December the 12th episode. I believe it was episode 12 or 13. We had Guy Coxwell. Guy Coxwell is an advocate and very educated man in the space of cannabis and hemp and CBD in the UK. Now, he wrote a report which we kind of dissected on the show. It was, part educational, part scientific, part historical. I felt like I got quite a lot from it myself. We started where we talked about the hemp graphene, which they use inside solar panels, and another thing which kind of brought up one of the points which stuck was the story of a man called Philip Anthony Bevington. Philip Anthony Bevington is 81 years old in March, so he's 80 years old. He was recently arrested and charged for growing his own cannabis. The gentleman suffers from kidney failure. Now, I don't know what everyone knows about kidney failure. I'm quite new to the subject as well. I assumed that, dialysis is a fix. Apparently dialysis isn't a fix, it's a maintenance. So the only thing they can really do is kind of prolong your life with dialysis and then basically leave you to die. Now, it's pretty messed up. And Mr. Bevington, Philip Anthony, Tony, as he likes to be known, he decided to start treating himself with cannabis, and he found some fantastic benefits from it. Personally, he's not a drug dealer. He didn't supply anyone else. He's not out there on the streets slinging kids and stuff. He doesn't run a criminal enterprise. He just grew cannabis for himself. And the police came to his house. They raided his house. They took everything from him, and they left the dying man in an even worse position. Now, I don't agree with the criminality, and I don't agree with someone breaking the law. But I do think there needs to be there's like a thin gray line between someone breaking the law and someone keeping themselves alive. So it's that I'm not here to cast judgment on our legal system. And the fact of the matter is police are only following their laws, which they have to follow. But there's got to be some form of logic. It's like, for example, there's a lake which says do not enter the lake, and you are on fire. So you jump in the lake and then you go and spend 20 years in jail. It's just a little bit like...
Did you just think of that analogy?
Yeah, literally.
That's really good. That's great.
I think that's basically it now. I would get it if, Tony, who you're about to meet, was, Mr. Bad Man drug dealer. I would get it. Fine, lock him away. But when you meet him, you're a bit like, how did you...
Really? Yeah, you're like, really? Come on.
So basically, look, without further ado, I want to bring him out. The guy's had an incredible story anyway. I want to try and focus on this part. He's going to court in 8 days' time. So the fact that he's even come on the show is incredible. The fact
Absolutely.
that he's come to share his story is incredible.
Absolutely.
And I want to give him as much time to basically, just to kind of just make him know that we're with him on this fight, even though we can't really be with him on this fight. We're with him on this fight. We support him, and anything, just want his voice to be heard. And we want our listeners to know full well that this is ridiculous. And if someone out there has the power to do anything about this, make this disappear, because this is ridiculous. Anyway, let's bring on Tony.
Good evening.
Was that okay of an introduction?
Yeah, it was fine.
Have I taken the wind out your sails?
No.
Good. Well,
Tony, thank you very, very much for joining us here on Men's Radio Station. Much appreciated. I'm going to let Ollie do the running with this, but I really do want to stress, the first thing that I do want to stress, and then I'll be quiet that you speak, is that this was all for your own personal health. And that is really the crux and the nucleus of much of this discussion. Anyway, Ollie, over to you.
So, yeah, let's start. Like, I've just got some notes written. I kind of want this to be more of a conversation than, like, most of our episodes have been very educational, and they've been very fact-based and very much, like bam, 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 learn, learn, learn. This is a bit more emotional. Okay, so you are a man who suffers. And what I want other users out there who might be suffering to know full well that this is an option. And I want other people out there who know other people who are suffering, who judge those other people who are suffering for using cannabis. I want them to back off a little bit, because that's what I kind of want to get from this episode. I want a little bit more empathy. And I feel, look, after I spoke to you, the only thing I could feel is empathy. I just can't believe this is happening to you. And it annoys me. That's the honest truth. It really annoyed me. It annoyed me a month and a half ago when I heard it. It annoyed me even more when I spoke to you over the last couple of days about it. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like I'm going to end up being annoyed over the course of this show. I do apologize if I end up swearing or getting aggravated.
No, you won't. You'll be fine.
I just want to say that. So let's start. Don't know much about kidney failure, all right? And, as someone who's dealt with CBD and dealt with designing cannabinoid-based products, I've never actually been tasked to design a product for anyone with, or never been asked for anyone with kidney failure to help. I've never been put in that position. How has your cannabis use helped your kidney failure before all the trouble, before all of the what did you find that you got from cannabis? And tell us a bit about your kidney failure, like what the implications of it, like that. Throw it at us.
Well, as you mentioned, there is no treatment for kidney failure. Initially, when you're told you've got kidney failure, you're classified in a certain stage. And I was classified in stage 3, with readings from my blood of very low, approaching dialysis. And as you say, dialysis is a prevention. It holds it in check. And that's all it does. And it's pretty unpleasant. It's 4 or 5 hours, 3 times a week, with the blood being taken out one side, back in the other when it's been purified. And it exhausts you, and it's horrible. And I really didn't want to go down that route. So
I just had a really weird flashback. I had a really weird flashback to a video I watched when I was in primary school. Don't ask me why. I just had this flashback. And it was this girl or this woman. She had a kidney issue. She was on a dialysis machine. And I remember her saying that because her kidneys are so bad, her diet's extremely limited. And the only time she was allowed to eat certain foods was when she was on the dialysis machine. Is that true, or have I just imagined that?
No, that's correct. I think diet is another part of dealing with your kidney failure, but that's a subsidiary that I wouldn't mind talking about a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that, please. Let's talk about that.
But I researched and found that cannabis was used in treatment in Canada for kidney failure. So I looked around. The way I get my medicine now didn't exist then, and there was no cannabis for kidney failure. So after a bit of research, I thought, well, I have no choice. It's the only choice I've got is to grow my own. I could have gone to a street dealer, really didn't want to. You don't know what the quality of it is. They could have put anything in it. And eventually I started growing my own. And
I just want to point this out. So when did you start growing cannabis?
about 2018.
So you've only been growing cannabis for 3 years. You're
Yes.
81 years old.
Well, less than 3 years, in fact, because of course I got arrested and I had to stop again.
No, but I mean like less than 3. So it's not like you were educated in growing cannabis before, and it's not like you've ever been a dibble dabbler. You just like this was purely medicinal. There was no other decision to pursue the cultivation of cannabis except for medicinal purposes. There was nothing else. It's not like you already had the grow or anything like that. You just started.
No. I had grown cannabis when I was 30 for recreational use.
Okay, fine.
Because I went abroad working.
But that was the 70s, right? If my math
Because I went abroad working. I lost all contact with cannabis, and I hadn't smoked cannabis for 30 years. I was out of the scene. I had nothing to do with it.
So you weren't a stoner. You weren't a recreational user. You weren't even someone who was in touch with cannabis. You didn't even. It's not even. So like hear me out. For example, let's say God forbid a member of my family got kidney failure. They have me. I would probably now mention cannabis to them. They've got me to kind of lean on. Blah blah blah. It's you didn't have anyone like that. So this isn't like a 78-year-old man thinking, all right, I've got to take my life into my own hands. I just want my audience, I want our listeners to kind of understand that this is not a man who does this or who has done this previous to needing to save his own life. It's very important because it separates you away from the rest. You're not, it's not cannabis cultivation for cannabis cultivation. It's cannabis cultivation for life preservation.
For medicine.
Yeah.
And I grew it, and I got reasonable at it. I converted it to an oil.
Nice.
And I ingested the oil, which I put into capsules. So it looked exactly like a medicine I'd get from my doctor. And then I got arrested and my medicine was taken away and I got worse. I got considerably worse.
Before getting arrested, before we move on to getting arrested.
Can we just wind back a second there, Tony? Let's just wind back a second. So how did you're growing this? And just give us a visual picture. Is this in your I don't know.
No, in my garage.
I greenhouse or something?
Made a special room. I'm an agricultural horticultural teacher. So I do know how to do things, and I made a special room. I was
wondering how you were so successful growing this. That now makes complete sense. So you're minding your own business, and you're growing this in your own garage.
Yes, out of sight, out of mind, locked in a garage.
Growing, if you don't mind me asking.
27 plants.
Fine.
Now, for somebody who's ignorant about this, Tony, is that a huge amount? Is that a little amount?
Well, it depends what you're doing with it. I didn't smoke it. I'd converted it to oil, so I needed to grow more for oil than I would have done if I'd been smoking it. If I'd smoked it, I probably could have got away with 6 plants.
So let's say if you're smoking it, you're going to end up basically getting about 10 times the yield than if you're making oils from it.
Yeah, so considerably more.
100 grams of cannabis flower, you'll probably end up with probably 10 grams of an extract, if you're lucky.
Yes, if you're very lucky.
If you're very lucky.
And I mean, I was inexperienced and inefficient. But
also, like I said, you're not a trained cannabis grower who grows cannabis for commercial reasons. You were growing it for you. So what did you expect? You know what I mean? Like you're not going to end up being, a Cannabis Cup, High Times Cannabis Cup winner. I'm sorry.
YouTube is very helpful.
YouTube is very helpful.
I studied a lot of YouTube and I put my knowledge in with what I heard and I adapted myself to that.
So let's go to your knowledge quickly, because what you brought up to me was that you basically used to travel around the world building farms in low economic yielding climates. I don't know what's the best way of saying that, in third world countries. All right. You used to go to third world countries and build farms, right?
In schools for kids to improve their diets.
Incredible. I
did that for 20 years, 7 years in Botswana, 12 years in Papua New Guinea, and 2 years in Micronesia.
Amazing.
And I loved it.
Amazing. So you basically spent your whole life trying to help and feed and educate and bring warmth to the world.
I'll tell you what, these kids taught me more than I ever taught them.
I love people who use words like that, because then you know that they're good people. I hate it when good people go through bad times. I'm so angry right now that you're going through what you're going through. I kind of wish you were a bad person. Do you know what I mean? It would make it a lot easier.
So let's just back it up a minute. So I'm just and then I want to get onto the medical side of it if we can, Tony. But there's a very human. All of it is an extreme human story. Ollie, would you mind very much just bringing your mic a little bit closer to you? I think just a fraction, that would be great. So Tony, there you are. You're minding your own business. You're far from well. You're in your own garage, keeping everything quiet and growing it for your own health. What happens next? You get a knock on the door? What happens?
I was taking my daughter to work. I stepped out of my back gate, and there's 2 police there, and they said, "Oh, we understand you might be cultivating cannabis." And I said, "Yes, I am. It's my medicine. Do you want to see it?" And I've been like that both times that I've been arrested for doing it.
You've been arrested twice?
Yeah, because I grew again, having had lost it all. I needed my medicine. So I did it again, and I got arrested again, and I was a perfect gentleman. I said, "Yes, I am. You know, if you take it from me, you're killing me. The state is executing me, essentially."
Did the I'm in no way criticizing the police, because I don't want to get into that whole argument. Did they understand? Did they understand, Tony?
Yes, they understood.
They understood perfectly that you're a man at that point nearly 80. You're in your very late 70s. You're extremely ill.
Not interested. It's against the law. That's that.
Does emotion? Am I the only person in this world who has? Can you guys hear me? Is this working?
It's okay. It sounds a little bit echoey, but it's fine. Don't worry about it, Ollie. Just carry on. No, carry on. Don't worry.
So basically, is there no emotion when people like when a policeman gets onto a scene of a crime? Does he not process potentially there might be a bit more to this story? You know, they see an 81-year-old dude, kidney failure, not in the best way.
They're not allowed to interpret. The point is, you and I, and I'm sure all the listeners around the world and all the people viewing Tony are going, "This is madness. This is the definition of madness." Here's a guy trying to save his life. He's minding his own business. What harm is he possibly doing? Answer, none. But police they can't say, "Well, you know, we'll arrest you for this. We won't do." They don't have that sort of thing. They don't have the discretion. I'd have turned up and said, "Oh, he was out." That'd have been me. "Oh, we tried to get him, Sarge, but he was out." How did they? I'm going to have to go there. Sorry, Tony. I'm going to have to go there because I am incurably nosy as a writer. If it's all in your garage and you're not going outside with a neon sign saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm growing cannabis," why did the police rock up?
Because a next door neighbour had made an allegation against me.
How did your neighbour know?
How did the neighbour know? Yep, good point.
You can smell it.
Had you had, I don't want to get into the whole personal side of it, but had you had bad relationship with whoever?
No, not that I was aware of. But he just thought he was doing his civic duty. And to be fair to him, he was.
You're a very decent man, aren't you?
Yeah, like I would be literally...
I'd have gone around and throat punched him, but you're a very decent guy.
I said to him, karma will catch you one day.
Well,
it's not right.
It's cruel. Do you know what it is, Ollie? What's upsetting me with this? It's cruel. It's just cruel. It's just cruel.
I'll tell you the second thing. I would get it now. All right. So look, go to his house. All right. Look, mate, you're breaking the law. We're taking your stuff. All right. And then they just leave him alone. That I would get. But the fact that they're literally they've thrown like what's it called? A legal war at him. The dude's going to court in 8 days' time to fight for his freedom. The guy, Anthony, I mean this in the best possible way. I don't mean any disrespect by this. You're a dying man, all right?
I am, but then we all are.
No, I know we all are. I know we are.
Probably the way I'd phrased it, Ollie, but okay.
What do they want from you? I mean, like, just let you have your last few moments of happiness. Oh,
No, I'm,
have a
I'm going
last
to
few
live to
years.
100. I'm going to live to 105.
Amen, amen, amen.
I don't doubt that you will. I don't have any doubt that you will. Tony, answer me this if you'd be so kind. You've got to go to court and go through the whole rigmarole. What's the best case scenario? Where I've no idea. It's not my
Get a
area. So,
suspended sentence, I believe.
I mean, they're not going to shove you in jail. I mean, that's not.
I
gonna
wouldn't have
happen.
thought so,
Well, you're
but
81 years old. It's not going to happen, is it? It'd be ridiculous.
well,
If
it's
it-
all experience, I suppose you could say.
Imagine.
Because I write too.
You're an extraordinary fellow.
I write too, Russ.
Right. You're just such an extraordinary man. So, all right. So you're going to go to court, and do you get a fine, or what's the deal?
Well, I'm an old age pensioner on an old age pension.
Yeah, I think that
What
was
can they
Godfather
do?
2. Actually, it was Godfather 2 when he came back to the airport. All right. I'm a retired businessman living on a pension. Wow. Well, we wish you all the very best for that. We wish you, that's the point. We wish you all the very, very best for that. I'm just really, Ollie, I'm agog with this.
Exactly. Like,
gog
God,
with
that,
this.
you know? I've got like 50 questions I want to ask him.
Off you go. Ask your questions, because I'm actually.
Can I just say something?
Please. Absolutely. You're our guest.
The reason I picked cannabis is because of a thing called homeostasis and the endocannabinoid system, which CBD and THC both play a part in. So, and I'd studied that, and I knew that we have in our body receptors that act with cannabis to balance our body. So my philosophy was I wanted to balance my body to its optimum by giving my kidneys a chance to be rectified a little bit. Then maybe it would help them, and that was my policy. So I used homeostasis and balanced my body using cannabis. And as far as I can see, and I hate to do this to you, Ollie, but I believe a full plant is necessary. So THC and CBD should be used together, because you get an entourage effect.
1,000,000% for what you suffer from, the entourage effect is 100% relative.
Can you explain to someone as ignorant as me, and maybe our listeners who don't know what is an entourage effect? What does that mean?
Yes, take it, please, Ollie.
So basically, in a cannabis plant, you don't just have CBD and THC, you have CBG, you have CBN, CBC, you have the terpenes, which we talked about last week, and flavonoids, and a plethora of other cannabinoids which haven't even been discovered yet. Now, what happens is all of these compounds work better together than individually. And that I have to agree with certain elements. Okay. And also for certain specific end users, you have certain people who unfortunately are adverse to other compounds. For example, people with severe anxiety can actually have quite bad reactions to THC. So sometimes an isolated compound actually works better for them. And then you have on the other side, for example, I think the CBD products would be probably useless for Tony here. I'm 100% behind Tony in the fact that he needs a full spectrum product. But I also, as you know, I preach that it's not about one or the other. It's about the right product for the right person. And everyone can find a cannabis-based product which is perfect for them.
Yes, because we're all different. Every single human body is different. So every single human needs a different analysis in their medicine.
Exactly.
Which is why the doctors are terrified of it.
Yeah, but then also it's a confusing space for someone who simplifies everything down to a pill. Like Anthony, he's mentioned, he actually has his whole family of doctors. Okay, so he's got an uncle who's a doctor, a brother who's a doctor, and he's basically, being 81 years old, he's been alive the entire time the pharmaceutical market has been alive. Pharmaceuticals didn't really exist pre-1940. So, as Tony said, when he was born, antibiotics did not exist. That they like, we physically couldn't get them. They weren't even thought about yet. So the whole idea of this greater pharmaceutical market ruling everything for an 81-year-old who lived way before they even came into play, I can understand why his brain questioned things. Also, as an agriculturalist, someone who's been more on the homeopathy side his whole life, when you travel the world and you live in third world countries as well as the Western world, you kind of get this combined socialization of medicalization, which makes you think about herbs and plants differently than the average individual who lives only in a Western world. I can imagine that when he's sitting around a tribal, sitting in a tribal environment, and he's not feeling well, and the local, I'm going to use the word witch doctor.
Herbalist.
I like it. Herbalist, exactly. Turns around and says, this is what you need. Tony's going to take it. Now, the average Western individual who's been socialized in that mentality of pills or nothing won't take it. And it's about the understanding of what actually goes into your body. And I think as an agriculturalist, he understands that. So therefore, his education into cannabis was much more of that of a herbalist than that of an individual seeking a new panacea. The fact that he's had this interaction with herbs over his life, and the fact that he's had this interaction with a plethora of natural medicines and natural medicative techniques, you can call it. I think it's of course, he was going to find cannabis when he hit this point. Do you know what I mean? That's what happens to people who look beyond the pharmaceutical world. And
let me read a comment from one of our listeners, Tina Cooper. Good evening, Tina. Totally agree with your sentiments, Russ. It's cruel. Most people wouldn't treat a dog this way. Our best wishes to Tony. So,
thank you.
People are very empathetic to what you're going through. I'd like to ask a couple of questions, if I may, Tony. When you were able to treat yourself, how much better, it's a slightly pejorative question, how much better did you feel?
Much better. I had no pain and my kidneys were improving. Wow. And then they took it away and my kidneys deteriorated again. And then I was able finally, October 2020, to get legal cannabis.
This is what I want to talk about. And this is important. So let me just make a quick introduction. Dude breaks the law. Dude gets in trouble. Dude now has legal cannabis and he's not going to get in trouble anymore.
I think at 81, it could be Mr. Dude, if you don't mind.
All right.
I think Mr. Dude at 81 years old, he deserves that.
His middle name. It's very confusing. If I can't call him Dude, then what can I?
Call me Dude. That's cool.
This is another thing which is quite important. It's like you need to what's your view on the legal system? If this legal system was in play before, would you have ever grown your own cannabis? And then this is something which is quite important. Also, I want other 8-year-olds to be looking at you thinking, I want to try cannabis now. They obviously don't want to get in trouble, because who does want to get in trouble? And I want people to kind of go down the route you've now gone down.
You've got 2 questions there. If it was legal, I would grow it. The system is draconian. It's out of date. And it's hypocritical. Many people, experts in their field, have advised the government that they need to take a health and scientific approach to cannabis, and the government has refused. I don't know why. Now that I've got cannabis legally, and it wasn't cheap at first, it cost me £450. That's with consultation and prescription. And it's gone down now. My latest prescription will be £30, and that lasts me for 3 months.
Well, that's good.
There are side benefits. I have stopped taking my meds, my blood pressure tablets. I haven't taken them for over 2 months. So I've done away with them. Pharmaceutical people listening will be having a fit now. But I think it's proven itself, but I'm afraid that even in 8 days' time, the court will not accept that. I have cultivated cannabis, I have broken the law, and I'm going to be punished.
If you're punished, you get your legal prescription taken away from you.
No.
So
they couldn't do that. That would be tantamount to execution.
If they sent me to prison, they'd have to provide my legal prescription in prison.
So if you think about in America, there are people in jail in America for growing cannabis, and now cannabis is legal to grow in America, and they're still behind bars. So I mean, strange things happen. Do you know what I mean? Like even when laws get revoked, people still get in trouble, and the government has an incredible way of slamming down on people and destroying them when they're low. So I mean, I just wanted to make sure that he's not going to get his pain, medicine taken away from him again. So you went down the route of 2021, right?
Project 21 Drug Science.
Which is Professor Nutt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Professor Nutt is literally, I've never met him. He's like this, I'm not going to say I keep a picture of him next to my bed, but I mean, if it was the 1950s, I'll probably keep a picture of him next to my bed. He's like my Albert Einstein. He's like my Albert Einstein. It's just it's the fact that he's kind of gone out there, and he was like 2 years ago, by 2021, we want to have 20,000 patients. And he's become proactive. Now, one thing which I didn't know, which you told me, is that it's actually affordable. And everything we've heard from every patient who's come on the show is that it's not actually affordable. You had Tanine who's talking about $2,000 a month, and you have other people who talk about obscene amounts of money they're spending. Now, I understand different products and different amounts of products cost different amounts. And like you said, if you were buying cannabis flowers, it would cost a lot. But I mean, can you give a breakdown as to what your medicines have actually cost? Because I want people out there to know that it's actually possible. It's not.
Okay, we're leaving the consultation out.
No, leave the consultation in, because that's nothing. Because listen, I went to see a psychiatrist 3 months ago because I had to get a re-up on my meds, which I couldn't get because of Brexit and everything. And it cost me 150 quid to sit down with him. Then he had to do a blood test, and he had to do this. I mean, when you go for private care, it costs money. That's just what happens. When you need to get something done, it costs money. But it's more about the idea of it's actually affordable. It sounds messed up, but I mean, like, it's less than a cup of coffee a day. Do you know what I mean? And that's where my brain was like, seems like less than a cup of coffee a day. So can we just have a little conversation about that? Because I think it's very important for people to know that this drug science, this Project 2021, is actually probably the best option for them. And like I said, I've never met them. I have no interaction with them. I'm not sponsored by them. But you're the only person to mention a legal cannabis prescription, which hasn't made me drop my jaw to the floor. So just give us a little breakdown as to what the costs were and what you actually get and everything.
First consultation, which is on video, £150. And the prescription was £150. So that was £300. The second consultation was £65. And the medicine was 150. Now, my third prescription will be £30. So the initial expense is quite high, but it goes down. Well, it did for me, and I can only speak for myself. For me, it's gone down. I have 30 mils of THC and CBD oil, which lasts me for 3 months.
Incredible.
I take 1 mil in the morning and 1 mil in the evening, a minute amount.
What, 1 mil or 1 drop in the evening?
One drop a mil.
Yeah. What 1 drop? I get that.
And that's all I have.
That's all you take is just the 1 drop.
A tiny amount.
So his product is very strong. So he takes, based on the math we were discussing, it's a 25% THC, 12.5% CBD. So it works out about 37.5% in your 30 ml bottle, which means you've got approximately 12,000 milligrams in the bottle. So if you take 30 mils, about 600 drops. 12,000 divided by 600 is about 25 milligrams a drop, 20 milligrams a drop. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, and I've got 30 milligrams.
Yeah, so it's like 25, 30 milligrams a drop. Not bad head math. Well done, Ollie. So basically, so he's taking a good dose. Now, bear in mind, that's the equivalent for you of the drops I made you have taken, like 6 drops. Okay. Milligram dose wise. Okay, so
that's my 3 months supply.
Yeah, good lord. Good
I love
lord.
the fact that you've got something that works for you, dude. I'm so happy. So what was the process then? How did you get in contact with Drug Science? How did you?
I made an appointment online, and they arranged a consultation, and I met my doctor, my consultant, lovely guy.
Name?
Dr. Sunny Nai.
Thank you, Dr. Sunny, for taking care of our friend.
He really looks after me.
You're not listening. Listen.
But
did you track them down to Tony? Just to wind back a fraction.
Pure luck.
You got them on the internet, or you started looking, or how did it come about?
You Google drug science.
Drug science.
To go for drug science and not one of the other one.
Well, the way I found it was en masse. There's a lot of them, and it's luck who you get. And I was given Dr. Nai, who I like a lot. We got on well. He's a real character. And he's interested in my experience, because drug science is a research project. So I am providing them with my experience.
Something I'd like to know, Tony, is this. Once you started to take first the medicine you'd made in your garage and now that's been prescribed, how quickly did the effects come into play?
Very quickly, within a few days. It's
that's so impressive.
I mean, you get people who say, "Oh, I don't like the taste." It isn't terribly tasty, but it's a small price to pay. And I've been given all sorts of crap food and horrible things to eat in my travels, and you just swallow it down and accept it. So I do the same with this.
The thing is, what I like is that it works and there's nothing else for you. So it's not like this is your only option.
Yeah.
That thing, this is your only option. That's what's kind of annoying me. Like they're not even offering you something which is going to kill you faster. As in, do you understand what I mean? It's not even like they're offering you oxy just to shut you up. They're not offering you anything. So literally your options are nothing or something illegal. And it's just a little bit, come on, that can't be the way. There's got to be more to it. I mean, like, I'm not saying that, you're saying, like, come on, world, come on. Please, come on. I don't know.
You bring to mind the day I sat in my doctor's surgery and she said to me, well, you've got kidney failure and it's terminal. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, this is what's like being told you're going to die. It just sort of flowed over me, and I'm not putting up with this.
How long ago was that?
2 years.
And I forgive me for being a little bit unsubtle. Did she give you some sort of time prognosis or?
No, she didn't. She just said there is no treatment. You can't reverse it. You might be able to halt it. Well, my cannabis has halted it and reversed it.
How has it reversed it?
My kidney readings are back up nearly to normal.
So what does that mean? Your kidneys are working again?
Much better than they were. I don't think they'll ever be 100%.
No, fine, that's fair.
But I have to tell you that my kidneys are in a bad state because of blood pressure tablets that were prescribed to me medically and should not have been. And they damaged my kidneys still further.
Fine.
So
how did your kidneys get so bad to start with? You know, like
I had kidney stones many years ago.
So did I. Wasn't nice.
Yeah, well, kidney stones lead to gout and to kidney failure if you're not careful.
Don't terrify Russ, Tony.
I'm fine. Right, let's catch up with some of the comments here. Keval Tanner says, this is inspiring. Thanks for sharing this story. So that's for you, Tony. And Nathan Wokeman says, best of luck for the court case, Philip. Sorry you have to go through it. It's quite amazing. And then Tina Cooper comes back and says this. Excuse me. We have a 2-tier system. We have private and we have people growing their own or buying from the black market, breaking the law to stay alive or relieve it. Well, it's madness. People on benefits and people like Tony who can't afford Project 21 to relieve their pain.
Yeah, well, I was very lucky. I did a fundraising project which set me up to start the process. Now I'm on £30 for 3 months. I don't need the fundraiser anymore.
Is that family and friends? Did you do that? Like GoFundMe or whatever it's called?
It's the cannabis community. They're a real strong crowd and we stick together.
And forgive me, I've forgotten in this extraordinary story. Are you still on the dialysis machine or you no?
I never went on to dialysis. I was that close to being on it, but I never made it, thank God.
If you start dialysis, are you allowed to stop it?
I've no idea.
If there are people out there on dialysis who have heard that cannabis might be beneficial, who potentially could reach out to Project 21 and get something which helps them, are they then allowed to stop dialysis? Because
I've no idea.
Blood's being taken out of you and put through a machine and your blood contains cannabis. Are you then damaging the machine for other people. Because,
No.
you know, if you have cannabis...
No, they flush the machine.
No. They couldn't possibly do that. No. It would be far more the hygiene is far more stringent than
As a point of interest, I don't get high on this medicine because I know that's a lot of people's fear. I don't get high at all. I take it and that's it.
So
I'm normal.
What are the effects then? Like 0 effects, just internal. Just
My eyes water a little bit. That's about it.
Do you find that your appetite's better?
No, it doesn't affect my appetite.
Did your appetite deteriorate with the kidney issues? As in,
Well, yeah, because part of my way I've treated myself is I've gone on a really strict vegan diet. And I think that and my cannabis is a dual-pronged attack, a whole body approach. A friend said to me, "You are what you eat." And I think it's true.
No, that makes sense.
You know, and since I've been on the vegan diet about 3 months now, I've noticed a real improvement in my overall health.
At this rate, you're going to outlive us all.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that.
Well, yeah, I'm going to write and complain. I might protest outside the court in 8 days' time, actually, with a little placard.
Can I go a bit personal? Just a little bit personal. It's there's a point to it, but do you mind if I go a bit personal?
No, not in the least.
Right. So you are an 81-year-old man. I assume you have a social crowd around you who might be of the same age as you. Have you had any?
No, I don't. I find old people just aren't on the same wavelength as me. I tried.
I find old people.
I tried U3A, and they're all blue rinse playing canasta, and that's not my scene at all. I'm a humanist. I want to fight for the world. I want to create peace and love and all that sort of thing. I know that sounds hippie-ish, but
you're a hippie, though.
Yeah, I know, but it's been my philosophy all my life. Equality and humanity.
This dude went to Woodstock, Russ. He saw Jimmy.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
You know, he saw dude play the national anthem. Bow, 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 bow.
No, I know. Trust me, I saw the film in the cinema. I'm that old. Wow. Well, for that alone, we salute you for that.
I'm just saying, he might. And we had this conversation on the phone. He said, I might sound like a hippie. I was like, bro, you're a hippie. Okay, it's not sound like a hippie. I go, you're a hippie. That's just.
Well, I haven't changed. I still go to festivals.
Favorite festival?
Glastonbury.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
Unbelievable. Veronica Curran says this, Tony. Lovely seeing you looking so good, Tony, and fantastic hearing all going well. And then Tina Cooper's come back. Thank God for the fundraiser and the generosity. Really enjoying the show. And Tony is doing great. Well, I think he's just extraordinary, this man. I came to the show. I mean, Ollie had expectations. I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I'm bowled over. It's quite extraordinary. It is quite extraordinary.
Demonization.
Hmm?
I want to talk about demonization. I want to talk about the view which people have of people like Tony who don't understand people like Tony. So the view which the general world has for people who use cannabis to keep themselves alive. And there's one thing we've talked about, this demonization of cannabis, this demonization of hemp, this stopping us progressing as an economy, using this crop to benefit us, and stopping us progressing medically using this crop to benefit us. And that's why I brought in the old person comment, like about, socializing with people your own age. Do you find that you get a lot of disdain from them having been through what you've been through, considering you find them more boring? I assume you haven't had any of those interactions to even care about anyway, but I'm just like,
I have a friend up the road. His little boy of 11 heard that I'd got arrested, and he said, "What are they doing that for? It's a medicine." So I had my postman look at I have a sign in my window which says I'm a cannabis warrior, and my postman looked and he said, "The government are so out of date with this." He said, "Good luck to you." So the government are not acknowledging the fact that a great deal of the population are against the policy that they enact.
what I don't understand is how most people, Russ's age, your age, you lived through the 60s, 70s, 80s, okay? Those generations. So people who were 20 years old in the 60s, 20 years old in the 70s, or 20-year-old in the 80s, they're the ones who make up the majority of this government, okay? That's who are our elders. They are our governors. And in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was absolute freedom, and everyone basically went mental. Now, what I understand is
not quite, Ollie. Not quite.
Why they were allowed to kind of go mental, explore, benefit from everything, live, and just kind of live free, and how now everything's still so restricted. I don't understand how we kind of
I'm going to answer, then let Tony jump in as our guest. Well, what I'm going to say was, because I was at school in the 60s, that in terms of the arts and the media and the films and the music and the impact of the Beatles cannot be overestimated. All of those things were huge, but all the powers that be remained pretty much the same.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why. You get caught up by looking, look at Woodstock, or look at these films, or whatever. Look at David Hemmings and all these the groovy folk. But the same institutions were the same institutions,
And they all came from the same place. British public schools.
Well, not everybody, but probably quite a load. I wouldn't know. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know the biography of everybody else. But that is why, Ollie, and these are complicated issues.
If it's a money thing, there's money to be made. So, for example, let's just spend, the best part of £1,000. If he probably had access to this system earlier, he probably would have never done his grow, and he would have been involved in one of these medicinal systems way earlier. That's all taxable. That's all earnable. I mean, if it's about control from a financial perspective, like most usually are, control it from a financial perspective, but just control it in an open way, as opposed to controlling it in a confined, hidden, banned way. I'm not saying don't control it. I'm just saying just control it in a way where people like Tony can stay alive. Once again, like I said to Tony on the phone, I don't really care about the average smoker on the street. I have this issue with a lot of advocates, because I don't honestly believe that cannabis should be legalized for everyone, because it's just not my fight. But what I do believe is people who need it deserve it. My fight's not to go out there and, stand in the streets and say, give everyone everything. That's not me. But I really do believe that people who need something to stay alive or be better, people like Taneen's daughter, people like Dr. Callie Seaman, people like Tony, people like, the patients of Dr. Barron, the patients of Dr. Carrillo, people who are actually, who need this. I'm on your side. Don't get me wrong. I'm pro-cannabis, but that's not the fight which I don't think that fight needs to be won first. I feel like people just need to get what they need. And it's really important, whether it's a THC or a CBD or a broad spectrum or anything, as long as, it's actually life-changing, I think that should be, it's like human rights, isn't it? It's like there's, when life comes into the conversation, the conversation changes. We're not talking about enjoyment. We're not talking about, we're not talking about fun. We're talking about live or die. I mean, it's like live or die is a black or white conversation. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with a black and white conversation, the response has to be black or white, a yes or no, live or die. It's the way it is. And,
doesn't make it right just because it's the way it is.
No, definitely not.
Don't you think that people have the right to have a freedom of choice as long as it hurts nobody else?
Exactly. I love your brain.
Well, this is when it is very difficult, Tony, when you don't have a grey area, when you don't have latitude. So, to use a stupid example, if it's a 30 mile an hour speed limit, and I'm the worst at this, but you got to stick at 30 miles an hour. And if you decide you're going to drive at 50 miles an hour, and you get caught, you're going to have a problem. You can't say to the officer, I was busting to go to the loo. They don't care. You know what I'm saying?
My argument still applies. The freedom of choice if it hurts nobody else.
Oh no, I'm absolutely getting to that. I'm agreeing with you. You're pushing an open door. You're pushing an open door here, because what you were doing was of no harm to anybody whatsoever. And the fact that it was making a very sick man well and give him comfort and take away the pain is a wonderful thing. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. It's a wonderful thing. What harm are you doing to anybody? Answer, none. You're not selling it on. You're not jumping and down the street and announcing everyone's got to do it. It was just your thing, and that's why you'd like a grey area where there was latitude.
You're not running into the old age home, putting joints in people's mouths, saying "smoke it, smoke it."
I don't know. Tony might be. I've got a feeling.
In Israel.
Sorry, in Israel, Israel's actually incredible what they're doing. To be honest with you, Tony, if you were in Israel, you would have never had any of these problems.
I know.
If you were in Israel, the literally you would have had the time of your bloody life. A,
Well,
you'd be living on a kibbutz somewhere, and B, you would have access to the highest grade medicinal cannabis in whatever form you needed in order to make your life better. You would be a research project, and you would literally, you wouldn't have had to ask, they would have offered. And that's what I also can't get my head around, like you had to go looking for this. Again, you have doctors who have told you you're dying. Just give them the option. Say, look, we can't offer you one in the NHS, but there are private medicinal cannabis facilities you can go to.
It's like, why are you throwing a man who's 81? Why are you throwing him under the bus?
Why did your doctor not direct you towards 20?
My doctor said, "Oh, you can't touch cannabis; it'll kill you."
Oh, okay.
Well, you should have said, "But I'm dying anyway. What's the deal?"
I gave them a leaflet on the endocannabinoid system.
Wait, and your doctor is old or young?
Young.
How
And then I asked to be referred to a cannabis clinic from another doctor, and he threw me out.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm dead serious.
They're legal. It's legal. You can go and get it. Why? So this has just got a bit deeper. So you're actually being prevented by the medical authorities who are governing you. You're being prevented from going in that direction anyway.
Doctors are terrified of cannabis.
Why is that, Tony?
Demonized for years. Apart from anything else, the medical schools don't teach the endocannabinoid system. The doctors are not up to date with the current knowledge. The same as the law. The law and the science are totally out of kilter with each other. The law is 15 or 20 years behind the science. So when my solicitor presented the barrister for prosecution in court with my prescription, he was dumbfounded. He'd never seen one before. He was, "What's this? Oh, this is very modern."
This is very modern.
This is
we're not
very
using pens anymore.
Those are the people that are sending people like me to prison or punishing us for doing what we're doing. They're ignorant.
But there's so many ironies here. I hope you don't mind me jumping in, Ollie. But there's so many ironies here with your situation, Tony. Your doctor sits there and hopefully in a kind way, if there is such a thing as a kind way, saying, you've got a terminal illness, there's no cure, you're going to die. And then you come back and say, well, what about if I try cannabis? Well, I wouldn't do that. It's
going to kill you.
It's going to kill you. And you're going, well, you've just told me I'm going to die anyway, so, what the hell? And the other thing here is you're 80. I mean, this is when the world goes mad. You're 81 years old. If it was the other way around, like if you were a lazy novel writer, you'd have an 81-year-old doctor stuck in his ways and some young guy like Ollie Mammon coming in and the 81-year-old doctor saying, no, you can't do this. And you can't. But it's completely the reverse. And you're saying to me, no, the doctors are young and they won't suggest. I see. My mind is boggled by this completely. It doesn't make sense.
It's what I'm really saying to you, isn't it, that there's a complete imbalance between the medical profession and the law. The science and the law are not in step with each other. So injustices are being perpetrated on a daily basis.
I suppose, if to act as devil's advocate just for a second, it won't be popular, just
no devil here today. Okay,
just for a second. I suppose all of us watching this, and certainly all the comments coming in from the listeners all over the world, are saying, yay for Tony. If they say, look, we're going to change the law so folks like Tony Bevington can go into his garage, grow some cannabis and make himself take away the pain and prolong his life. Wonderful. and but I suppose at the back of their mind they think, well, if it's not Mr. Nice Tony Bevington, but it's Tony Bevington who wants to make a few bob, he's going to start flogging it from his garage, and then we're going to have all sorts of problems. I suppose that's what I say by devil's advocate, that they might be scared of.
True, but let me cut in there. All right, I get that, and this is why I'm not pro everyone getting licensed.
No.
What I said this because there's always Mr. Wrong and not always Mr. Right. But there's like you said, the stages. So stage 1, sorry, Mr. Bevington, you have kidney failure, you're dying. Stage 2, cannabis will kill you. Stage 3, get out my office, I'm not prescribing you to cannabis. Stage 4, cannabis will probably kill you again from another doctor. Stage 5, he's left to Google. He's left to Google.
81 years old and he's Googling to save his life. It's nuts. This is where it's nuts.
Do you know what they always say? Don't end up don't Google your life away. Okay, so basically, if you've got a medical issue, you don't go and check Google. And this dude was the only thing he had left to do was go and Google. And amen, thank God, thank the powers that be, thank karma. He was delivered to Project 21 because they've actually taken awesome care of him. But that's mental. I would get it. I get the fact, don't let him grow. That's cool, all right. And I would get the fact, you have to buy a legal prescription. That's cool. But somewhere between don't grow and get a legal prescription, someone's got to be directing people towards these prescriptions. Doctors have to step up to the plate. And like Dr. Barron said, like Dr. Callie Seaman said, like Dr. Simon Carrillo said, unless we go out there and educate these doctors, they're not going to know. Why? Because doctors, like everyone else, are trained to do a job. Okay, when you go to a garage, all right, you've got a mechanic there who's trained to do an MOT on your car.
Which I had today, bizarrely.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
weird is that?
So a doctor is trained to basically do an MOT on an individual using their bag of tricks. And when you bring them something which they haven't seen before, they don't want to play with it. Now they should want to play with it. Why? Because that's how we get better as a nation. That's how we get smarter.
I agree. I agree. But Tony,
I see it slightly differently. The doctors give you a pharmaceutical, and then they give you another pharmaceutical that offset the side effects of the first pharmaceutical. And so it goes on. And all these pharmaceuticals damage you. They don't treat the complaint.
Yeah.
It's not a holistic treatment we're getting from doctors anymore. It's a treatment for your particular complaint. And when that gives you side effects, then you...
Here's my favorite, Tony, because I'm on various drugs. And I get the notice from my GP thing back before when we had a life, before the world went mad. Come in for a review of your medicines. I said, okay, sure. So I go in and I turn to the doctor and they've been brilliant at my local surgery, NHS surgery. They're great. And I say, so the side effects, and what do you think? He went, I don't know. I said, what do you, just word for word, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean you don't know about the side effects of the stuff I'm taking? He says, well, we don't have any information. I said, well, what's the point of me coming in for a review? I've got one question. Am I going to croak it because of the side effects? And you go, I don't know. It was just...
Google it.
Yeah, I know.
The word is the contraindications. So when it's not even a side effect, so for example, you with your grapefruit, there's the medicine, Russ, which you can't have grapefruit.
I can't have grapefruit, which is fine. It's not a big deal for me. I'm going to try it.
It's things like that as well, which doctors just don't know. And everything's so limited. All of the information which people like Tony are given is just so...
Well, they're under huge pressure. I mean, I'm not belittling what's happened to you, Tony, in any way. I think you're an extraordinary human being. But doctors are under the most terrible, terrible pressure. And, they're not having exactly a field day. They're really not.
I agree, totally.
They're really, they're copying. We are nearly out of time, Tony Bevington, one of my most favourite guests of all time, I think.
Thank you very much.
Extraordinary, So in the last 30 seconds, Ollie, would you like to just say anything in the last 30 seconds to us? And thank you for introducing us to Tony Bevington. What a hell of a guy.
If you guys can show your support to Tony, I don't know how they can do that. If there's any way for the people to show your support, tell us now, Tony.
Sign any petition you see on Facebook for easing of restrictions on cannabis.
And that's where we have to leave it for this week. Thank you so much for everybody. Thanks for all your comments. We'll be back same time on Thursday, 6 o'clock. Bye.
See you next week.
Bye. Thank you.